Life out of me. Yes, guys, it is finally here. Over 14 years since the release of the original, and about 10 years since the release of the rather questionable Dead Space 3. The Dead Space remake is finally here, and I personally can't wait to play it. Now, assuming this game lives up to the hype and doesn't end up being a disappointment like the Callisto Protocol was, it's probably smart that I make some kind of plan on how to tackle these achievements in the best way possible. Based on this, I figure first playthrough we'll go for easy difficulty, we'll get all the miscellaneous achievements, all the side missions and all of the collectibles. Moving on to our second playthrough, we'll do New Game Plus, we'll do One Gun, which is for using just the plasma cutter weapon, we'll get the alternate ending, and we'll also try and finish all of our upgrades along the way as well. Moving on to the final playthrough, it's going to have to be a brand new game on impossible difficulty. At this point in time it should be all I've got left, and hopefully I can manage it. Without further ado, let's get into the first playthrough. We begin the game aboard the Kellion. Our name is Isaac Clarke, we're an engineer and we're also part of a rescue team responding to the distress call of the USG Ishimura. The Ishimura is a Planet Cracker class ship and it's currently stationed above the planet Aegis 7. Now, get used to the Ishimura because almost the entire game is set on it. You'll either grow to love it, hate it, or potentially all of the above. Almost immediately, the gravity tethers malfunction and we crash land straight into the Ishimura. Our crewmate Johnston is injured and she decides to remain on the Kellion, but the rest of us head off of the ship and head on board the Ishimura. Here we go. After taking a moment to appreciate just how beautiful his surroundings look, Isaac is hurried along to join his crew. We approach the flight lounge entrance and sync our rig. The computer then tells us we have to collect our kinesis and our stasis modules from the chief engineer, although, rather worryingly, the computer can't seem to locate where he is. Upon noticing the ship seems worryingly empty, we're asked to check for damage. Isaac notices that almost everything is offline, and at this point in time, Shen unfortunately asks a question he probably doesn't want the answer to. And his question is rather promptly answered. It's around this point that we're told to run, and honestly, after seeing that, you don't have to tell me twice. I turn into prime Usain Bolt and I am off, searching for the nearest bit of safety. This pesky necromorph doesn't know when to give up though, and he pursues me all the way to the elevator. Thankfully, at least the elevator doors are on my side, even if nothing else is. Now, I'd love to say that the elevator took us to safety, but the blood-covered room probably suggests otherwise. We find the plasma cutter at this point, which is, in my opinion, a truly iconic weapon in gaming. As an engineer, Isaac is conveniently experienced using these tools, although I assume in the past he probably didn't test them out on live targets at any point. The friendly message on the wall warns us to cut off their limbs. Now, I don't know who they are, but maybe it's best that I follow their advice. Now, rather promptly, I seem to find out just who they are, and I proceed to follow the message on the wall and, well, you know the rest. Oh, and for good measure, I might stomp them a bit. Sorry about that. Soon after, we complete our objective and get to safety. For some reason, I kind of doubt that's true, but we'll go along with it. Why do I doubt this is safety? We're currently separated from the surviving members of our crew. The tram is wrecked, and conveniently, we're on the right side of the quarantine to fix it. We head off to get a new data board and also to clear the broken tram off the tracks. We eventually reach the room that has the spare data board in. Conveniently, in the same room, there's also our first power node of the game, and right next to it, there's a bench. The way power nodes work is they're used as upgrade tools for your different items. So you take the power nodes to a bench, and you can upgrade either your rig or your weapons. This can provide things like increased health, stasis can last longer, your weapon can do more damage. It's really a vital part of the game. Now, for one of the achievements we have to get all of the upgrades anyway, but to start with, we'll focus on things like our rig to give us more health, and our plasma cutter because it's a main weapon and probably the strongest all-rounder in the game. We reach the broken tram and set about trying to stasis the arms in place. After a rather questionable stasis shot, a necromorph tries to come up behind us and give us a surprise hug. Oh, what's gonna fucking life out of me? After dispatching him and a few of his friends, we actually pop our first achievement in the game. There's first achievement. We finally get the tram replaced and head back to call a tram in for our crewmates. Hammond tells us to go back to the Kellion and help fix the ship whilst they head to the bridge. We board the Kellion again, and a shocked Johnston asks why we're covered in blood. It turns out the comms were down, so we had to fill her in on the rather unbelievable details. Unfortunately, a pair of Leapers destroy the Singularity Core at this point, and Isaac is told to get off the ship. Whilst this happens, Johnston bravely attempts to fight off the Leapers. Sadly, things don't end particularly well for her. 45 minutes in and 2 main characters are down already. This is starting to feel awfully like Game of Thrones. We avenge Johnson's death and break the bad news to our remaining crewmates. With no ship, and also finding out the captain is actually dead, we now need to track down his rig to be able to use the command computers. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned is Isaac's wife actually works on the ship, in medical of all places. 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Now Necromorph Chen appears by our crewmates, so off they run and we're left to our own devices once again.
No, he don't look as good as he did earlier.
At this point in time, we get to the tram and we travel towards medical. We go to the store that's located here and we buy our first suit upgrade. We head down the elevator and into medical deck. At this point in time, we pick up our kinesis module, we pop the achievement for finishing chapter 1, and we head on to chapter 2.
Chapter 1 done, on to chapter 2.
Now, as I mentioned, we just got our kinesis module. What this does is it lets you pick up objects and move them around. Now, this is vital, especially on high difficulties, because you can pick up things like spikes, weapons, explosive barrels, and throw them at enemies. Saves ammo, does a lot of damage.
That hand's supposed to be there?
Now, it's at this point in time that we got our first new weapon, the pulse rifle. Now, it's an assault rifle, and that sounds great, but in reality, it sucks. Regardless though, basically every weapon has an achievement tied to it, so we need to get 30 kills regardless. During a lockdown on the way to our objective, we actually pop another achievement for pinning an enemy to the wall using kinesis. Yes, that's right, you can actually use the enemy's own arms as weapons. Bit brutal, but I love it.
Nice.
Now in the same room it asks for a tissue sample, so I try and donate some of my victims. Turns out it's actually a side mission for later on, but it's a good effort.
It's a big hunk of tissue.
We arrive in the main area of medical to find out that the morgue is actually barricaded. The only way we're going to be able to open it is with a bomb. Fortunately, as an engineer, we can make one of those, so off we go to get the relevant parts. As we search for parts, we find a number of audio logs which fill in some of the backstory. These audio logs all mention the marker and unitology. The marker in question is a reverse engineered copy of a black marker, and the purpose of this marker is to create necromorphs and spread the contagion. Unitology is a religion that believes that humans were created by aliens, and that in death they will be reunified through the power of the sacred marker. You learn more about this over time, but without actually showing every audio log, some bits may be missed, so at least you understand the gist. At this point in time we find the first ingredient we were looking for, which is a hydrazine tank. We now turn around, head back the other direction and start looking for the shot pad. A little while later we find our first schematic. There are 13 of these in the game and they provide upgrades to different weapons. Now we need all of them for an achievement, so we're going to have to make sure we get all of them on this first run. We then run into our first baby of the game. Yes, that is really a thing. These are small babies with tentacles on their back and they are pretty deadly, to be honest. I'll let you just watch. Soon after that rather traumatic encounter with the baby, we find the shot pads and we can finally make our bomb. Once we get back to the blockage, we plant our bomb, stand out the way so the bomb can explode, and can head into the morgue. Right away we stumble across our first weapon upgrade. We also need to collect all of these for an achievement, so once again we'll get them all in this first playthrough. Whilst heading towards our objective, we stumble across this recording of Isaac's wife. Now, this is the beginning of one of 3 different side missions in the game. I won't cover every single one of them in all their details, but I figured I'd at least point out where one of them started.
That's a side mission.
As we continue on, we come across this scene here. This scene really highlights just how dire things have got in Ishimura. I'll let it play out, but just a word of warning, this is a suicide scene, so if that's going to upset you at all, please look away for 10 to 20 seconds.
I don't think anyone's quite that strong. Okay.
We finally reach the captain and start removing his rig. Now, I definitely have to start speeding up the chapters in this game, but I'll let the scene play out because it just looks stunning and it shows just how much work has gone into the remake.
Oh my god, they're infecting stuff over there too. Look at it. Stop it. Stop it.
So these little creatures are infectors, and they are awful. What they do is they latch onto dead bodies and turn them into necromorphs, so you need to make sure they die as quickly as possible.
Die.
With the captain's rig in hand on our new security clearance, we transfer the codes to Hammond and head onwards to the hangar bay. Upon heading outside into the hangar bay, the chapter ends and our next achievement pops.
Isaac, this damage report says there's a broken cargo lift just beyond the hangar door.
As we head into chapter 3, this is probably one of the most boring and linear chapters in the game. We're told that our engines are offline, so we need to go and refuel them, and we're also told that the gravity centrifuge is offline. This means that the tons of rock that we've mined are heading straight towards us, and we're being pulled down to the Aegis set, so we better go and turn that back on and save ourselves. Early on in this chapter we find Volker's rig. This is the first part of the second side mission out of 3 in this game, and you're tasked with finding a bunch of different crewmates' rigs. Once you find them all, you're able to construct master security and access basically everywhere in Ishimura. Now, this won't be completed till very late in the game, but at least we're starting now. Early on in this chapter we find the Ripper, which is our next weapon. The Ripper is like a floating circular sword, and it's actually quite strong, although unfortunately when the blade breaks it takes a while to reload the next one in. As always, we need 30 kills, so we'll start using it. After quickly popping in to see Nicole and getting the next step of our side mission done, we continue on and get the first of the 2 engines refueled. We now have to ride the gondola across this gap to continue the mission, and unfortunately we're a bit of a sitting duck at this point in time. We have a number of acid spitters messing us up, and honestly it's fortunate that I'm playing on easy, because this isn't great. Daniels appears again over the comms, and you learn that she doesn't really trust Hammond. She believes that he's involved in some way and he's part of the reason for this whole mess. After a bunch of slicing and dicing, we finally get the second engine refueled, and it's time to head to the centrifuge and try and get that powered again. After having a little disagreement with the local nursery kids, we finally arrive at the centrifuge and we get to work trying to get it back online. We stasis the arms to slow down the spinning before reattaching them into the centrifuge. Once this is done on both sides, we can then go up to the control panel and reactivate it, getting it back online. With everything now online, we need to head back and manually ignite the engines. Unfortunately, we get a bit too close to the centrifuge, and we end up with our first death of the run. Luckily, this isn't on impossible yet.
Restarting the engine.
As we head towards the next objective, we run into this guy who seems to just be hanging around. Now, I feel a bit bad for him, but we did get a flamethrower out of this, so I won't complain too much. Now, the flamethrower is decent, good crowd control, albeit a bit weak. Definitely not the worst weapon in the game. We finally get to the engine room, and it's a clusterfuck. There are enemies absolutely everywhere, and we are ambushed. After finally fighting them all off, and surviving, barely, we finally get to refuel the engines and finish our objective. And in what is becoming quite a recurring theme, we head back to the tram station as always, get our achievement and finish the chapter. Moving on to chapter 4, and it seems that once again we have another issue to solve. We're about to head through a meteor shower and our ADS cannons are currently offline, so surprise surprise, we need to go and fix them. We arrive at the main atrium and then head downstairs to the escape pods. Hammond's there and it seems he's caught his old friend Chen. After a bit of a moral dilemma, he ejects Chen out into space in the escape pod. We then follow Hammond through into the captain's nest.
Hold this position for a while, if no more asteroids come through the roof.
I don't know you were.
It seems the ADS cannons don't have enough power, so Isaac suggests he can go elsewhere and rewire and reroute the power. Whilst we're in here, we also go over to this terminal and pick up the other side quest. This is one that we picked up the rig for earlier, and it's what gets us maximum security clearance at the end of the game.
Oh, yes it is.
As we head back upstairs, we run into our first brute. Now these are supposed to be the strongest enemies in the game, but honestly they're a bit of a pushover, especially in the remake. We have to run around for 30 seconds first without attacking, because that gets us a hidden audio log. Once that's done, we go behind him, stasis him, and shoot all his limbs off. This gives us an achievement, and it also drops a power node. Every single brute drops a guaranteed power node, so they're always useful to kill, not that you have a choice.
That was so weak.
Now we get quite an important audio log here, so I'll quickly let it play out for you guys.
It's on the record, Doctor. The marker must be delivered to the church, whatever the cost. God's sakes, Ben, listen to yourself. The Ishimura's in crisis, you've cut us off. By Maritime Law, Article 469. I, Dr. Terrence Kine, hereby declare Captain Benjamin Matthias unfit for duty. Heretic! Hold him! Ben, you're not yourself. Let me help you. Traitors, get your hands off me! This is my ship! Oh my god, he's... You... Ben. You saw I was trying to help him. Doctor, you just killed the captain.
Oh dear.
We have to take you in. I can't. If the others from the church get a hold of me. Stop!
Well then.
Whilst on our way to reroute the power, we find our next weapon, which is the contact beam. Now, I didn't use this much other than for the achievement, but it's recommended to be one of the best items in the game, so definitely give it a try.
Contact beam. Next weapon. Dunzo.
What's that? A recording? Huh. Must be the marker they dug up.
So it is the same. That marker. That's the symbol of the Church of Unitology.
Didn't take you for a believer, Isaac.
My mother was. But if they found this on some alien planet, what does that mean?
That Unitology's onto something?
Unitology's full of shit. Forget it.
Oh god. Oh god.
Now, I won't show myself rerouting all the power because it's a bit boring, but this brute sneaks up on us along the way and we get another power node, which is always great. Upon reaching the store, we can finally get another achievement called Pack Rat. For this, you need to store 25 items into your item storage. This took a little while to get because early game you don't have a lot of resources and you don't have a lot of items, but by this point in time we've got plenty of stuff and we could get it easily.
There we go. Pack rat. Actually, the cannon's done. Hopefully.
We reroute the power from the third and final location and the ADS cannons are now powered up. The auto-targeting is broken, so we offered to go outside and recalibrate it ourselves. Now, in the original version of this game, there was an achievement tied to this, and it was a lot more frustrating. You had to physically sit in a cannon and shoot at a bunch of asteroids whilst trying to prevent losing too much health. On this, however, there's no longer an achievement tied to it, and all you've got to do is activate the 3 panels, aim at the asteroids, and just click A. Nice and easy, takes no time at all. Definitely an improvement. With the cannons calibrated, we head back inside and we get an emergency transmission from medical. It's Nicole, but could that be real? At the same time, we finish the chapter and get our next achievement.
What you make of this?
Third of the way there.
Officer Nicole Brennan. Medical is a sanctuary. All survivors, please join us.
Almost straight away into chapter 5 and we unlock our first weapon related achievement. This is a cut above and it's for getting 30 kills with the Ripper.
Achievements? Kill 30 with the Ripper. Ooh.
Right after this we stop off at the store and we can actually get our next suit upgrade as well.
Yes, please.
We arrive back at medical and a doctor seems to lock the doors behind us. Unfortunately, it seems like he's going to make our life harder, not easier.
So, you've decided to be difficult. Take a seat. I'll deal with you momentarily.
Oh dear.
As we're travelling through medical in search of Nicole, we actually pop our next weapon achievement again. This one is for getting 30 kills with the Flamer.
Oh, sick. I guess all the little enemies count for that then.
All survivors, please join us.
Yes, I've already heard this. Oh.
We find a projection of Nicole playing, and upon activating the broadcast station, we realise it was actually a trick. She was never contacting us. The Doctor makes an appearance here, and he locks us in stasis whilst he gives us a lecture.
The mark is messing with you.
Make us
Isaac Clarke. All right. Dr. Brennan's nearest and dearest. We were colleagues, you know. Dr. Chalice. Mercer.
Don't like the look of that.
Are you the reason the marker won't begin? That's it. Convergence is installed. She's meddling. How is the question? But even if I was to ask, I suspect you're not the talkative type.
More talkative than the original.
I think you're on the right track there. Try and relax, Mr. Clark. Convergence is so close. Maybe your death will tip the balance.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Our stasis runs out just after Mercer finishes his speech. Unfortunately, at the same time, his hunter gets released from the glass. Now, this hunter will pop up a few times in the story now, but it's essentially a necromorph that regenerates. Basically, you can't kill it by shooting off its limbs, it just grows them back. As if they weren't scary enough already. We just about escaped the room alive, and we learned that Mercer has locked down medical because he wants to experiment on the crew. We're gonna have to get to his office and lift the lockdown. Unfortunately, we're still being pursued by his monster at the same time.
Oh, God. Every way out is locked down through one of the offices. Must be Mercer's.
Insight into the marker with stuff. Now he's been accused of sending little missives like this one.
You butcher! I saw your hunter. I know who it used
We enter a storage room and we end up finding the line gun. Now the line gun is probably one of the best weapons in the game. It's like a plasma cutter, but it's slower with less ammo. To negate that disadvantage though, it has a massive spread compared to the rather small spread of the plasma cutter. It probably won't help us with the hunter at all, but it will help with everything else in between. We also get an audio log here from Dr. Kine. Now he plays a major part in the story later too, but essentially he's now turned against Mercer. He's seen the hunter and he says that it's wrong, and if that's part of unitology, he wants nothing to do with it either. We reach Mercer's office and in here we find 2 audio logs. The second of these actually gives us the achievement for getting 75 logs.
Oh, nice.
After this, we disable the security protocol and leave the room. We're now tasked with reaching the cryogenics lab. By the sounds of it, the air on the ship is poisoned and we can actually fix this by getting some liquid nitrogen.
Oh, I bloody remember this. You got a freezer guy, don't you?
Yes, Alex, very good. So we reach cryogenics and the liquid nitrogen is just sat there. Mercer stood in the next room just staring at us, and that all seems a bit suspect to me.
Anything but courtesy to Dr. Brennan. Can you say the same thing?
Oh, crap.
Whilst I'm busy staring into space, the hunter pops out of the grates in front of us and we instantly turn into panic mode. At this point in time, I know I can't just kill him and I am on edge. So our goal here is to cut off his legs so he's nice and slow, stasis him whilst he's in the chamber, and then run into the next room and activate the chamber itself. This will freeze him and hopefully kill him.
Oh, God.
Unfortunately, things don't always go to plan. As you saw in the intro, this is the exact scene where I nearly poo myself. In the chamber itself, you can't really see anything, and I was convinced that he was in there and I'd nailed it first time. Whilst I'm busy examining this, he appears to my left and gives me a love tap.
What's the life out of me?
Needless to say, I need this guy gone.
I thought he was still in there. My God.
Our second attempt is much cleaner and we actually managed to kill the hunter this time. Now the hunter's dead but Mercer has managed to escape. Right now that's not our main concern though, because we need to head to hydroponics and try and fix the air. We enter the hunter's grave and we actually find the tissue sample we were trying to figure out earlier. Along with this, we also get the achievement for finishing chapter 5. We begin chapter 6 by backtracking into medical so that we can put the tissue sample in the correct place. This activates the start of the third and final side mission in the game. Almost straight after, we pass Mercer with his patient. This is the guy that ends up turning into the hunter, although he looks slightly better at this point in time. A short while later we encounter this Leaper that's having, well, a little bit of trouble.
What
We
the
stasis him and we pop our next achievement for stasising 50 enemies. Is stasising even a word? Well, it is now.
Oh, nice.
Literally a minute later we get our next achievement, which is Wishbone. For this you need to shoot an enemy's limb until the bone's exposed and then use kinesis to pull it apart. Bit brutal, but anything for gamer score.
Nice. Wishbone achievement, that is what I was hoping for.
As we enter hydroponics, we're told that there's a large mass in food storage. It seems like the source of the poison gas, but we've been told that making a certain type of enzyme might be able to clear it.
Scientists left the workstation open.
We encounter this projection as we enter, and it warns us to turn back. It speaks of a monster that's poisoned the air, and this monster turns out to be the Leviathan. The Leviathan has turned all of her crew into what she calls Wheezers. These are poison gas emitting necromorphs. Our current objective is to inject all 8 of the Wheezers and try and get rid of the poison. Now, this is a really long chapter, and it's my absolute least favourite in the game, so I'm just going to skip through this very quickly.
No. Go back. There's no way into food storage. Even if there was, the Leviathan would devour it. You're Elizabeth Cross, right? This Leviathan, is that what's poisoning the air? The air. My team, it's destroyed everything. I designed a special enzyme to kill it. I just needed liquid nitrogen to complete the synthesis.
Well, I've got that.
But the people
Conveniently.
never came back. Okay, so if I get to your team and inject them, the enzyme will be carried right into the Leviathan's heart.
Preston, we need medics and
We
crowd
discovered the
control
Force gun here, which is the last weapon we need to unlock the full arsenal achievement.
What the hell is this?
Oh, nice.
Food storage.
Full arsenal, own every weapon in the game.
We're alive.
As soon as we leave the room, we get our next kill-based achievement. This is for getting 30 kills with the pulse rifle.
Another one, auto fire achievement.
This is where the 40-minute long mission to inject 8 Wheezers starts, so I'm just going to quickly skip through them all.
Is that all of them? Oh, we're here.
We're told that they're now at peace, but unfortunately we also find out that the Leviathan is now too strong and we need to go and handle him in person. Well, we're actually told to avoid that, but we're Isaac Clarke, so we always take matters into our own hands. We head into food storage and we're met with this beauty. Now, we're on easy difficulty, so this isn't really a hard fight at all. The Leviathan has 2 main mechanics. He'll either shoot out a tentacle, aim at you, and then try and hit you. There is, however, a weak spot that you can shoot to try and sever the tentacle. His other attack is he'll spit out these kind of explosive balls at you, but they're quite easy to dodge, and I think if you do enough damage to the mouth, if it is a mouth, then you can actually cancel this mechanic. When we eventually deal enough damage to him, we expel him out of the airlock and we get an achievement in the process.
That's a bitch.
And lo, you crushed the heads of Leviathan. He will be meat for those.
Yes. Exterminator achievement unlocked. Kill the Leviathan.
With that mission finally done, we leave the area and we get told we should search for an SOS beacon now. This will allow us to call for help and maybe escape. Just after this, we finish the chapter and pop our next achievement.
Greenhouse effect achievement unlocked.
We're officially on to chapter 7, which is technically the second half of the game. We arrive at the mining deck, and our objective now is to find an SOS beacon, attach it to an asteroid, and shoot it out into space so that someone can pick up the signal. We head onto the lift, which we're going to spend a lot of time in during this chapter. We get ambushed, which becomes a bit of a regularity too, but we do pop an achievement here for dismembering 500 lilies. Now, Isaac shows signs of cracking here, taking out all of his anger on this poor, dying crewmate.
Off with his head.
We reach the control panel for the launch fuse, but unfortunately our access is denied. It looks like we're going to have to find Supervisor Dallas and get his rig so that we have the permissions we need.
That's nice.
On the way to Supervisor Dallas, we kill this pregnant necromorph and we get our contact beam achievement, 30 kills.
Well, it scared the life out of me when that achievement popped. Oh my god.
Upon reaching this room, we need to quickly get rid of all of the debris. This means gravity can be restored and we can enter the room to get our rig.
Yeah.
We enter the room and we find Dallas and this audio log. Now, I'm going to let it play out because it is actually really sad.
Supervisor Dallas, final log. I've made sure they can't leave this subdeck. But neither can I.
Clearance confirmed.
See what they do to the bodies, what they become. And I cannot let that happen to me. At least if I don't have any limits, I can't kill anyone when I'm infected. Please, tell Dawn, the kids, that I love them.
Fuck no.
The game finally manages to get another jump scare out of me, with what might be the most pointless door in the existence of any video game.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Straight after this we get the Pusher achievement, which is for killing 30 enemies with the Force gun.
Look it off.
Believe it or not, but we seem to run into Nicole here. She knows where the SOS beacon is, but unfortunately we're on the other side of the gap to her. She has a correct security clearance to let us into the room, so we go in and we protect her from necromorphs while she helps us out.
Stan, the workshop's open. I've never seen you at work. You're a surgeon with that thing.
I got your
Bloody right I am.
okay.
Sadly, almost straight away we have to part ways again, but in the next room we find our SOS beacon. With the SOS beacon in hand, we have to head all the way back now so we can launch it. As we get onto that infamous lift again, we get our line gun achievement.
Oh nice, there we go. Eviscerator. I think that's all the weapon achievements done.
After raising funds by selling some unneeded items, we're able to buy our brand new rig upgrade from the shop.
And then I'll buy that. Boot level 4.
We finally reach the correct room to activate the launch tubes, but unsurprisingly, there's an error as always. We're going to have to head outside and manually clear these obstructions before we can launch the asteroid. So it turns out I was wrong, and actually the asteroid is a plan B. We were just going to shoot the SOS beacon out of the tube, but because of the blockage we needed a plan B. The more you know, I guess. Anyway, we destroyed the 4 gravity tethers and we launched the asteroid into space. Is it finally going to be our time to get saved?
It's working. The beacon's online, broadcasting wideband. I'll align the receiver.
Unfortunately, the beacon isn't responding. We probably shouldn't be surprised by now, but another thing is broken. We're going to have to go and fix the comms array before we can have any hope of getting saves.
Wait. Array receiver not responding. Oh shit.
The comms array. We never fixed it. Guess it wasn't a broken encoder.
Master security override required.
Override required.
We finally get out of the mining deck and back to the tram station, and we finish our next chapter, popping our next achievement.
SOS, chapter 7 done. Lost a Scuffle the baby.
We run into a couple of guardians here and we farm our next achievement. This one's for getting stomp kills, and unfortunately it only counts if the stomp kills the enemy in one hit. Fortunately though, these little enemies that the guardians poop out can die in one shot, so we just stand here until we get enough for our achievement.
There we go, backbreaker achievement unlocked.
Now this chapter is super short and pretty uneventful, so we're going to speed run through it. We reach a communications array, and whilst it's damaged it is repairable. Now this is essentially like a little minigame puzzle. All you need to do is align the light so that it reaches from the outside ring into the middle.
How's the comms array?
Fried? Someone hotwired the dishes together and blew out the system.
So we're screwed.
No, it was sloppy work. Some of the dishes are intact. If I replaced them and create a new circuit with no gaps, we could broadcast a signal. Short range only, but it should work.
We slot the last piece into the puzzle, and we now have to head back and activate the communications array.
Nice.
I think you got it. Try opening a channel to the Valor.
This is USM Valor, broadcasting on all frequencies to USG Ishimura in response to your SOS. We've picked up your escape pod number 47 and are en route to your position. This message will repeat every 30 seconds until you respond.
Oh dear. You don't want that escape pod.
Unfortunately, the people trying to save us have actually taken on the escape pod that had Chen in it. If you remember, Chen is now a necromorph, so that's really not ideal. We can't get into contact with them because something's blocking the communications array, so I'm going to have to go and get a long-range antenna and place it onto it.
Still can't reach the Valor. What's happening with the antenna?
Who?
It's the Leviathan. It must have snagged on the comms array after we spaced it. It's not coming off without a fight.
Isaac, there's no time.
There is if I use the ADS cannons. Manual targeting like before. I can shoot it right off the hull.
We head outside and we have another ADS cannon section. This is the same as earlier. All you need to do is go to the 3 cannons, aim it at the orange bit and shoot it until it blows up. Once we finish hitting all 3, we kill the Leviathan again and we pop another achievement.
I wasn't very clean, but get off my ship, kill the Leviathan remnant.
We activate the long-range antenna and unfortunately this happens.
Yes! Finally! USM Valor, this is Kendra Daniels on the USG Ishimura. Do not open the escape pod. Repeat, do not open that.
Yeah, but surely I see from the window that the thing was in there.
No, well.
With rescue out the window, we find out that Hammond has actually found an escape pod. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a singularity core, but the ship that's just crashed into us probably does. Next step, get onto that ship and get the singularity core. We fly over to the Valor, ending chapter 8 and getting our next achievement.
The hell was that?
Exiting zero gravity.
Oh, nice. And that is Strange Transmissions, Chapter 8 complete.
Now, Chapter 9 is another quite short one. We find out very early on that the ship actually has a nuclear warhead aboard, so the first thing we need to do is dispose of it. We run into our first Twitcher enemy here. These Twitchers were the soldiers on board the ship. They had stasis modules attached into their suit, and unfortunately it's melded into their body. Because of this, they kind of jump around and teleport all over the place, and if you shoot them in the correct area, you'll hit them with a blast of stasis. They're a bit annoying, but you get used to them over time. Within a few minutes we reach the warhead, and we do pretty much the stupidest thing you could do. We shoot an explosive enemy right in its explosive part.
Oops.
Fortunately, the second time round we learn from our mistakes. We kill the explosive enemy and then we get rid of the warhead out of the ship. Now as we continue on towards the Singularity Core, we find the shooting range. This is supposed to be a simulation, but unfortunately we have a few necromorphs join us. Once we finally dispatch of the last enemy, we are rewarded with an achievement and we also get some good loot as well. Right after the shooting gallery, we head into the next room and we find our final schematic. This once again gives us another achievement.
Oh. Merchant. Collect all schematics. 0.09% of gamers. Bloody hell.
We finally arrive at the Singularity Core and we're reunited with Hammond. Now, I'll just let the scene play out for you.
Another malfunction. Half the Ishimura's in the red. Someone get the door open. Huh. Shin? What did that thing do to you? Help me get him to the Kelly. Shoot him. Touch him. Shoot him.
You idiots.
Shin? No. You won't kill him.
Well, I mean, it kind of helps, to be fair.
Now, that does kind of suck, but at the same time, like we said, that did help. Shen's now dead and we can grab the Singularity Core. Unfortunately, at this point in time, the ship starts blowing up and we need to book it. We need to get off the ship and get back to the Ishimura ASAP.
The Valor's gonna blow! Go!
Fortunately, we get off the ship just in time and the explosion launches us all the way back to the Ishimura.
Incoming debris. Sealing blast door.
Once we get back on our feet, we regain our bearings and we make our next plan. We need to get to the crew deck where the shuttle was said to be. Unfortunately, the marker and all the unitologists are there, so this might make things a bit interesting. Just after this, we finish the chapter and get our next achievement.
There it is, chapter 9 done. Wreckage. 3 to go.
Now, before we start the main mission in this chapter, we have a higher security clearance level now, so we're going to backtrack and finish off some of the things that we couldn't do earlier in the game. The first thing we do is collect the Tram Supervisor's rig. This is the final rig we need to acquire the maximum security clearance, and it also finishes the side mission for us.
Benson's rig, which I think is the last rig, maybe?
We head back to the Captain's Nest and construct the override, earning our next achievement.
There we go. Create the Master Security Override. I'm amazed so many people have that.
Now, I won't show all of these, but this clearance level means that we can go back to a lot of locked rooms and get all of the items we previously missed. Now, a lot of these Master Security rooms hold things like weapon upgrades, which we need for achievements, so we've got to make sure we go and get them all done.
Oh, nice. One node. Upgrade.
After a lot of backtracking, we find the final audio log we need to finish the Hunter side mission. This nets us an achievement, and it also gets us a useful stasis upgrade.
Oh, nice. Upon regeneration, discover the hunter's origins, which is another of the side missions done.
After mopping up all of the backtracking we had to do, we now try and continue on with the normal mission. Unfortunately, Isaac isn't very good at reading maps, and we kinda struggled to find our way back.
Where the fucking going?
We finally make our way to the crew deck just to discover that once again it's locked down. We're gonna have to find the deck supervisor who may have an override key for us.
Supervisor might have an override key. The last location I have for her is the gym. How long will it take to install the singularity core on that shuttle?
Not long, if no one tries to stop me.
Now, in this area is the 0G basketball. Yes, that's really a thing. We activate it to trigger the enemy spawns in this room and we clear them out. Once the arena is clear, we then restart the 0G basketball game. This minigame is simple enough. There are 4 targets and a number of tubes that the ball can be ejected from. You need to pick up the ball using kinesis and fire it into the targets. A normal goal scores 5 points, whilst you can earn 10 points for goals that are scored through the glowing target. Now this target changes randomly throughout. As the levels progress, blockers periodically cover the targets, increasing in speed over time. The goal for this is to reach level 6, which requires a total of 220 points. Now it isn't too tough, but the time can be a bit unforgiving. If you miss too many shots near the end, then you'll run out of time. With each level you progress through, you get more time added on.
One more.
Upon reaching level 6, we get our next achievement and we also unlock the 6 reward lockers in the previous room.
Nice. Level 6 done. Z-Baller achievement unlocked. Very nice. More armor, more capacity. Why not?
We now pick up the keycard we were looking for and can head into the crew deck. At this point we run into a man called Temple. He was once the chief engineer on the Ishimura, and he's also the boyfriend of Dr. Cross, Cross being the doctor that we worked with in chapter 6 when we had to clear out the Weezers. He attempts to kill Mercer here, but he's frozen in stasis by Mercer and is eventually murdered.
The clock. I'm still denied convergence thanks to this ingrate.
Mercer, wait.
Which my stasis lasted that long?
I want to understand. What is convergence?
But you already know. Dead or living, we all feel the marker's true purpose. Don't you want to be reunited with the people you lost? Yes. Then why not with me? Mr. Temple has refused, but we are so close. Everything that has happened on the Ishimura is just the beginning.
When you put it that way, you and your marker can go to hell.
Wow.
And a slow death in stasis. I think your death will come faster.
After witnessing that whole ordeal and finally escaping the hunter, things start going a little bit weird. The mark is really interacting and messing with our head, and we start hearing Shen's voice. At this point there are tentacles which are blocking our entrance to the shuttle, so what we need to do is go to the different areas of the crew deck and get rid of them all. Along the way we get another recording here. This details some of Isaac's past, so I'll let it play out for you.
Isaac. Sorry, late shift. How are you?
My mother, she's
Octavia? How's she doing?
she's dead, Nicole. They both are. She killed my dad, then herself. Yeah. The church. They took the bodies before I could.
Oh my god. Oh, Isaac, I'm so sorry. Fucking unitology brainwashing.
Stop it. Just stop talking. she was herself again. You said she would be better at home. I trusted you. God. You might as well have killed him yourself.
She was better. You told me to leave for the Ishimura. You pushed me to... You know what? Go to hell, Isaac.
Nicole. Nicole! Nicole! I didn't. Oh God, no. Not her too.
Isaac. It's me. I wish I could talk to you.
She wanted to talk. I didn't listen.
Sorry.
I can make it right.
I'm sorry
I can save us both.
about everything.
Straight after that, we find the final recording linked to Nicole's side mission. This pops as the achievement, and that is the final side mission in the game complete.
No related rig activity has been logged.
There it is, whole again. Pursue Nicole's investigation. Once again, I'm surprised so many people have done all of those, to be honest. So I think that's all the side missions in the game. So that is 3 that didn't exist in the main original, I think. But all 3 of those are done. Chapter 10, main story, so we're getting close.
We then get our 150th log. This pops as the achievement and we no longer need to collect any of them. We still will to build the story a bit more, but it's not a necessity.
Oh, nice. Legend Teller. 150 logs. Thank goodness I got it.
We run into Dr. Kine by the last tentacle we need to destroy. Kine wants to join us on the shuttle, returning the marker to the planet it came from before escaping with us. After this dialogue, we head into the room, destroy the final tentacle, and head back to the room that contained both the marker and the hunter.
Hazardous anomaly detected.
Doc.
Activated.
After fighting through the lockdown, we retrieve the marker and head into the next room to access a shuttle. We place a singularity core in and then have to test that it all works. As we test via the engines, unsurprisingly the hunter makes his appearance for about the 30th time in this game. Fortunately though, those flames on the engine look just about hot enough to kill the hunter, so we stasis him, chop off his legs, and once again send him to his death.
Get off.
As we leave that room and try to head into the shuttle, once again things go west. Mercer's grabbed by the tentacles, the marker's taken, and we're also grabbed. 1 step forward, 2 steps back it seems.
Bring convergence! Make us whole!
Once we finally free ourselves from the tentacle, we tell Kine to go and pilot the shuttle to the hangar whilst we head for the marker. With that, the chapter ends and we pop our next achievement.
There we go, that's chapter 10 done. Keeper of the Faith.
The start of chapter 11 begins with us needing to extract the marker and get it loaded onto the ship. We find the Peng treasure here, a one-of-a-kind collectible with an achievement tied to it.
Ooh. There we go. There's always Peng. Find the Peng treasure. Different location to the original, but we got it.
At a nearby workbench, we also get the Built to Order achievement, which is for installing all of the weapon upgrades.
Built to order, install every weapon upgrade. 0.07% of people. Wow. Sweet! That might be every collectible now. Everything collected on this first playthrough.
We activate the cargo loader, and now we need to transfer the marker to the loading bay. This is basically like a 10-minute defend mission where you need to keep clearing out enemies whilst the marker slowly moves into position. It was a bit hectic, but nothing too bad, although it does make me worry for just how hard it may be on impossible difficulty. With the marker finally in position, we need to now go and meet Kine and Daniels back at the hangar bay. Our friends pull up to the hangar bay at the same time we do. The marker is just down below, so we need to line up the tracks and then load it onto the ship.
Must be the damage to the ship.
We're losing time. The hive mind is down there.
Kine,
Soon after, we finish loading the marker and we head back to our ship to meet up with our friends again. Kyler stood outside the ship waiting for us. Unfortunately, as we get close, Daniels actually shoots him in the back and steals the ship. It turns out she was actually the government agent the whole time, despite trying to blame Hammond for the whole thing. Her objective this whole time has been to return the marker to Earth. Daniels reveals that the marker was man-made and planted on Aegis 7. The original marker found on Earth was real and alien, and it inspired unitology. It was studied and then reverse engineered before the replica was placed on Aegis 7 to be tested.
They needed somewhere to test it.
Nicole now appears over comms and tells us to come to the flight control room. Apparently there is still a chance of us escaping with our lives. Upon reaching Nicole, we're told that we should manually override the escape pod and bring it back to us. After that, we can travel to Aegis 7 together and return the marker to its rightful place. As we recall the ship, Daniels uses the escape pod to run away from us.
Finally doing the smart thing.
Fucking kidding me? Shit!
Warning. Escape pod launch detected from shuttle USG-09.
We climb aboard the ship, at which point we are given a point of no return message. We accept this and continue on, heading towards Aegis 7. That ends chapter 11 and gets us another achievement.
If you're not ready, a miracle must be as terrifying as a nightmare. The planet is restless, hungry. It'll try to eat us alive. But we have the marker. We'll put things back the way they were. We will be whole again.
There it is. Betrayed. Chapter 11 done. Final chapter, Dead Space, is coming up.
Now, the majority of chapter 12 is actually very uneventful. All you do is essentially transfer the marker along these rails for about 30 to 40 minutes whilst you clear off enemies along the way. Because of this, I'm going to skip towards the latter half of the mission because that's where things get a lot more interesting. Now, after about half an hour of just fighting, we get to this point where we can put the marker on the pedestal. I activate it and I'm just going to let all of these scenes play out. They're quite long, but it does really tie up the rest of the story.
He's weirdly unaffected.
Thank you, Isaac. I always believed in you.
Nicole.
We're whole again. We are whole.
Emergency. Geo-orbital gravity tethers offline. Tectonic load released. Impact imminent. All personnel, evacuate immediately.
Payload. I'll restart the tether. Buy us time.
Rerouting gravity tether controls.
Come on.
Forget it, Isaac. There's no fixing this.
Let her go, Daniels.
Let who go? Can't you see how delusional you are?
We've got to go. The payload from the planet crack is about to fall.
I gave you a chance to come around, Isaac. But if you still won't see it, I'll help you. One last time.
Rig link override.
This time, watch to the end.
Isaac, it's me. I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about everything. I just wish I could talk to someone. It's all falling apart here. I can't believe what's happening. Strange.
She was very happy. Look at her.
Such a little thing. Just had a talk. That's all this research was in the end. Not much, is it? Just had to make it listen when he begged for convergence. But I had a different prayer. It spoke. And then it listened. Make this stop, I said. Maybe it understood, but can I see you again, Isaac? I loved you. I always loved you.
She's Elizabeth Cross, that scientist from hydroponics. You both saw what the marker wanted you to see. Jacob Temple for her, and Nicole for you. Jacob. No.
She can't be. What the hell did you do?
You did this to yourself. Nicole's been dead this whole time. You just couldn't handle it, could you? Because if she's gone, at least now it'll be in safe hands. The marker won't turn anyone else into its puppet. Give me the loader remote.
No. It's over. We're whole again.
For Christ's sake, I'm not going to ask again, Cross.
No! Enough people have died! Then just do it. I've got nothing left to lose. Cross!
It's better this way, Isaac. You'll never recover from what the marker's done to you. And when the tectonic load drops, all this will be buried. Just like Earth God wanted.
At this point we need to try and race back to the landing pad and get on the ship before Daniels beats us there.
Last warning, Isaac. I mean it. Isaac,
Bye bye. Sweet, sweet karma. This game looks beautiful, man.
Fortunately, she can no longer be at Zed because she has been slapped to death. Unfortunately, the Hive Mind stands between us and escape. The Hive Mind is the final boss in this game, and it isn't too bad. There are 5 orange balls in its mouth that you need to destroy to kill it. To make it open its mouth, you need to survive a wave of attacks, and then shoot one of the balls until it blows up. Upon doing this, the next wave of attacks will be longer and more difficult to dodge, but once you do all 5, we end up managing to kill him. After destroying the 5th and final orange ball, the Hive Mind picks us up and attempts a last-ditch effort to try and kill us. Whilst we're dangling upside down, we need to do the classic thing of shooting a few target spots to try and get him off. Finally hitting the correct spots, we're released and the Hive Mind dies. We get an achievement here for killing the Hive Mind, and we now run towards our ship to escape. This is the final cutscene of the game, so I'll let it play out for those who haven't seen it before.
Mindless prey. Kill the hive minds. There you go. Oh. Exodus. Complete chapter 12. So that is the game done for the first time.
Isaac, it's me. Oh, I wish I could talk to you. I'm sorry.
It's like the really classic ending.
And that is our first marker fragments. We need all of them to complete the game. I think that gives an achievement. Yes. Marked. Pick up a marker fragment for the first time. 1 down, 12 to go.
Now, onto our New Game Plus playthrough. I'm going to speed through this in literally a minute or two. All we need to do is play through on easy again, use the plasma cutter for the whole game, finish off getting the rest of our upgrades for an achievement, and get the 12 marker fragments. These marker fragments are collectibles that weren't obtainable in the first playthrough and are only available in a New Game Plus run. The first one of these that you pick up gives you an achievement, and once you get all 12, you can unlock the alternate ending.
So I nearly missed this. I'm in the last chapter. You've actually got to place these. So there you go, that's all the markers placed. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I should be able to get the alternate ending now, hopefully, when I finish the game. That's close. I was just at the point of no return and I realised.
By the end of the 11th chapter, we've collected all of the fragments and we've placed them as well. That means that the alternate ending is now available and we just have to complete the game. Moving into chapter 12, and we'd barely scraped the upgrades in time. This nets us our maxed out achievement just in time.
There's a big one. Maxed out, fully upgrade all weapons and equipment. I think I'm like 3rd on TA to do that. So 2 playthroughs, I'm literally at the last chapter, so I cut it close.
We kill the hive mind for a second time and head back to our ship once again. I'm going to let the whole of this alternate ending play through as well. I personally left it as a surprise until I played it, and I'm sure a lot of people probably haven't seen it yet either. So my last two achievements are medium and impossible difficulty, and they are stackable. Rather than showing a load of gameplay again, I figured it best to just show a few highlights and to provide some tips and insight. Straight away in the first clip, you can see just how much damage you take and how long enemies take to kill. The early game is definitely the hardest part for me. Although there's less enemies in the end of the game, you are so weak and you can die so quickly. You really have to be conservative and play it safe. You'll understandably be much more on edge during this playthrough as well. As you will see, I do jump a lot in this playthrough, and that's just because you're so worried of dying. When you're playing on easy, it isn't too bad, but every single choice you make here really does matter.
We'll do it.
For most of the game, my focus is buying all of the rig upgrades when I get them and using all of my nodes on the plasma cutter and the rig itself. Now towards the end of the game you will have some extra resources to use elsewhere, but for the start it's really best to focus on just a few areas. One really useful mechanic to consider, and you'll see it coming up in a sec, is to plan when you buy these upgrades. If you're really low on health and you get to a bench and you have an available HP upgrade you can buy it. It will give you all of your health back without using any medkits. In the same way, if your weapon's almost out of ammo in a clip or out of ammo completely, you can buy an ammo upgrade and it will give you a full clip as well. Another thing I found myself doing a lot in this game is carrying around items using kinesis. This could be things such as spikes to throw at enemies or things like fire extinguishers or explosive barrels. I never bothered on the easy difficulty because they die so quickly with normal ammo, but this is something that can save you a bunch of resources and kill enemies very quickly. It is worth noting though, and you'll see it at some point in these clips, you can kill yourself too, so watch out. The next tip is stasis. Now this might sound stupid or obvious, but I rarely use this on easy too, but it is crucial on impossible. Use it whenever you've got a big group of enemies or you're low in health, and if you're near a stasis recharge station, just spam it. You can just keep running around and getting more anyway. You also need to learn to be comfortable at low health. Quite quickly you will learn just how much damage enemies do to you and at what point you may die in one hit. As I said, nodes can heal you to full if you use a HP upgrade, so it's always useful to stay low health and not waste the medkits unless you really have to. Obviously towards the end of the game, if you've got no HP upgrades left, just make sure you keep your health up. There's no point risking chucking away the game right at the end. Some of the hardest sections in the game to me were the 0G sections. Often in these sections you have enemies such as the babies which can chuck projectiles at you, and it's really hard to find them at times. Even with the sound right up, you don't really get much spatial awareness, so it is very hard to figure out. At points like this, if you hear an enemy, maybe just take the hit just so you can see where it comes from and you can locate them and kill them before you get hit a second time. Now you will have moments where the game just messes you over, and this can be really frustrating. Things can happen such as your stasis hitting invisible walls, shots missing that shouldn't, invisible barriers being in the way of stuff, all sorts, but just try and keep a cool head and just take your time when possible. Another thing to be aware of is the intensity director. Now this wasn't in the original Dead Space, but it is in the remake. The original Dead Space was linear and there was no real backtracking, whereas in this you can backtrack all the way up until the end of chapter 11. Because of this addition, they've added the intensity director. Now if you've already done a playthrough or two of this game, you might notice that occasionally events make sounds, randomly explode, all sorts. But another thing that happens is enemies can spawn randomly in places that you've never seen them before. Because of this, I generally advise that for your impossible playthrough, you focus on the main story and you avoid all side missions and going anywhere you don't have to go. It's not worth wasting the resources or taking the risk. The next advice is to pick your fights wisely. Even if you're just following the story, not every enemy has to be killed. If you know where you're going and there's an enemy in the way but you have low resources, maybe just stasis them and run past. In certain situations they'll chase you, such as in some of the hunter sections, but for the most part if you get to a new room you'll be safe. And probably the two most important bits of advice: keep calm and know the game. For me, this was my third playthrough in a couple of days and I knew the game like the back of my hand. The last thing you want to do is get lost and die trying to find your way back. Whilst you can definitely do your first playthrough on impossible and save one playthrough to get the completion, it's not really worth it. Take the first playthrough to enjoy the game, save impossible for the end when you know it well, and smash it. Now with a bit of luck, a bit of skill and some good strategy, you may end up at the end of the game like me. At this point in time I was at the end of the hive mind, I got picked up and I just had to hit the final two targets. Now I was panicking because I didn't want to die right at the end of the game and it is really hard to hit these shots upside down, but eventually we hit them and we finished this final boss fight.
I was panicking, I think I've got lost my ammo. I literally think that might have been the last clip because I was trying to reload and I was panicking.
We ran into our ship for the final time and finally popped our last two achievements on our first attempt of impossible difficulty.
Oh, I was worried that wasn't popping then. Well, there it is, guys. every achievement in Dead Space done. That was nerve-wracking. So there it is, guys. That's the completion of Dead Space. Now, the first question, was I the first in the world to get all the achievements? At the time I completed it on True Achievements, I was first, but about halfway through the week, someone snuck in ahead of me. It must have been someone that didn't have a True Achievements account, maybe. And then a few days later, when I was editing this, unfortunately, I saw a second person had overtaken me. So I'm currently sitting at third on the leaderboard. Now, I wasn't actually going for first, I just saw that I was quite far ahead and I went for it at that point, so I'm still very happy with what I accomplished. In terms of difficulty for this game, I'd probably say it's about a 6 maybe. Impossible isn't too bad, like I said. There are a few insta-kill mechanics, but for the most part, if you keep calm and you're quite used to the game, you should be fine. My first playthroughs on easy, I wasn't good, I missed a lot of shots, and I still managed to get this done. Now, there are workarounds for impossible difficulty. I won't mention them here, so if you want to use them, then just go and Google them, but obviously that really does reduce the difficulty of this completion. In terms of the time it took, for me, you can see my first playthrough was 11 hours 15. For some reason, it added 50 minutes when I first saved, so it's actually about a 10:25. My New Game Plus, it took 7 hours 11, and my Impossible took 7 hours 26. So in total, you're looking at about the 25-hour mark for a full completion. Now, you could bump that down one playthrough if you did Impossible on your first run, but I think it's worthwhile just enjoying the game on a lower difficulty first, or just without the stress of losing your whole save. I've also seen a lot of people say that this is really overpriced for a remake and complaining about it, or saying that they'll wait till it's on EA Play or something else. Honestly, I never buy new games, and I'd already played this twice before, but I don't regret it at all. It's probably one of the best looking games I've played in recent years, and it's just a remake that I really love. A lot of remakes just aren't done very well and they're not worth it, but this is absolutely worth every penny in my opinion. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and also leaving a comment, and if you want to see more like this in the future, please feel free to subscribe. This is the kind of content I enjoy making, and I plan to do more hard completions and hard achievements in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, guys.